Hi everybody, in this video we've got a fun one. I know that as watchmakers we're often looking for a bargain, combing the listings, or maybe walking through markets, and I got this for $20. Clearly it has some damage from a welding event. I don't know what the proper terminology is there, but it's got some pitting and some splatter marks. We'll replace the crystal and clean up the case a little. The Rodico is marking where the divot is to pry the bezel off. The outside looks rough, but the dial looks really nice. We'll pop this bezel off and get this crystal out of here. We'll also take out this gasket and make sure it's in good shape before we reuse that. But we'll go ahead and get this case prepped for some sanding. You can see the splatter from the welding. I don't have power tools, so I'm just going to hand sand these edges down with some sanding sticks. I use the tape at different angles to try and keep the edges as sharp or crisp as possible. I don't want to try and make this look brand new, but I do want to get these rough edges off. These are the sanding sticks that I use, and then I follow up with a polish with a rotary tool. I've got the case work done and it's now an ultrasonic cleaner. So while that's going, let's take another look at this dial, which is really neat. It has kind of a pie pan shape to it. Once the case is dry, we'll go ahead and get our crystal gasket back in it. Just use a little bit of silicone lubricant here to help preserve it. Just make sure this is nice and flat in here. So we often dream of finding, a vintage Rolex for pennies on the dollar, but this is a more realistic example of what you're likely to find. And now we look ready for our replacement crystal. Actually, let's do a quick comparison with the old crystal and the new crystal. Even though it's not a Seiko crystal, it shares that beveled profile. It's not domed, it's flat. We'll just be sure we get this lined up in the gasket properly and get our bezel aligned. Again, marking where that divot is with Rodico. Eventually I'll need to remove that. Our next step is to press the crystal in with a press, and I'm just figuring out which discs I want to use. I'm still fairly new at case finishing, so there are people who do it much better than me. We'll do our best to not scratch it. I don't think the plastic is necessary, but it doesn't hurt any. And we'll just give this a good squeeze till we hear a snap. Occasionally you'll have a watch that won't give you that snap feedback for when the bezel seats, so you'll just have to kind of inspect it closely by eye. Let's blow off our dial and the inside of our case. So yeah, it's not a luxury Swiss brand, but I think it's a very nice looking watch. I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find better for $20. What do you think? We'll go ahead and get this movement cased up. If you're curious to see videos on servicing Seiko 5s, I have a couple of other videos posted that go through the disassembly and reassembly. Go ahead and get our stem in here to help us make sure we're aligned properly. You can see there's a notch there through that case ring that the stem feeds through. And there's a new gasket there on the stem, if you can see that. And you just want to make sure that that case ring is positioned correctly for the stem to go through. We'll gently squeeze that in and get our case back on, along with the new case spot gasket. And remember, you don't have to torque down these case backs. You really just need them snug enough to compress that gasket to create a watertight seal. You can actually make it so tight it probably compromises the waterproof or water resistance, I should say. And we're just going to check our quick set for the day. And we'll pull out one position to check the quick set on the date. And just check our hand set. Everything's looking okay. And we'll give it a little whine with the Seiko swirl. You can see I sanded down most of the pit marks from the welding. I left actually a one there on the bottom is a little reminder. I don't know. What do you think? Is that just me being goofy? But because yeah, I didn't polish all the faults out of the case, but I did want to make it, you know, presentable. I can see my polishing is not great in some areas, so I'd appreciate any feedback or advice you can give me to improve that. But I think it's a watch that most people wouldn't hesitate to wear. Yeah, I think this has come out really well. I guess the next thing to address is how the watch runs. And here we have the watch on the time grapher. The only thing I've done is adjust the beat error and the rate. I have not disassembled, cleaned, and serviced this movement at all. And I think I'm going to leave it as it is for a few days and wear it and see what happens. I suspect after a service, I could probably get the amplitude up a few degrees, but Seikos have notoriously low amplitude. So here's a close-up of the before, and here is the after. As promised, this is just a short video, mainly to inspire maybe some of you thinking of getting into the hobby. Not everything has to be a complicated service, but thank you for joining in, and I hope to see you in the next one.